Welcome to the Voices to End Hunger podcast. I'm your host, Minerva Delgado with the Alliance to End Hunger. April marks Second Chance Month across the United States. It's a time to highlight barriers that stand in the way of people who have served their debt to society and act to ensure previously incarcerated individuals and their families are not burdened by hunger as they seek to start their lives anew. Today's episode is Nourishing Second Chances. Our guest today is Reginald Darby, Federal Legislative Director of the Clean Slate Initiative. Welcome, Reginald.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Why don't we start with learning a little bit about you? What drew you to this line of work?
So just before I start there, I just want to thank you all for having us today, or having me, I should say. I am the Federal Legislative Director with the Clean Slate Initiative. We are a national nonprofit organization that focuses on clearing the records of individuals with low-level nonviolent crimes. We've been successful in 12 different states, most recently in Oklahoma and New York. We've also passed it in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, who we see as our flagship state. They're in their third version of Clean Slate, and a few others. But what has brought me to this line of work, just by way of background, I am from Austin, Texas, born and raised, and I worked on Capitol Hill for over 10 years with the Republican Party. And one thing that I've always championed was the ability to do for your own. And a lot of times I did not necessarily realize when you do for your own, you're going to need some help from others. So I primarily focused around criminal justice issues. I've worked with organizations like the CSG Justice Center, working on second chance and reentry issues. And then I came across the opportunity to join the Clean Slate Initiative. And as I shared, they focuses on record clearance, expungement, things of that sort. And for me, my own personal background story is when I was 17, I made a unwise decision making prank phone calls to one of my classmates, and that prank phone call got me in trouble because I made a threat. And in that threat, I was charged with assault by threat, which required me to pay back a fine, which my mother had to do as a single parent. I wasn't working at the time. And then volunteer services, and then also had to go to an anger management class. I did have to do all of that so that my record could be expunged. And I think about that and having that opportunity when I was 17, and just thinking forward, if I did not necessarily have that opportunity, I would be one of the statistics of folks out there that have a record, which I still am today. Over 100 million individuals, every one in three individual in this country, adult, has a criminal record of some sort or an arrest record. So that's what drew me to Clean Slate. And ultimately, I feel like I'm not only just doing the work for myself to benefit myself, but also the community and those that look like me, sound like me, and come from similar backgrounds.
Thank you for sharing that story. And I'm glad that you had that second chance. And I love the fact that Clean Slate is working to promote second chances for others as well. So since this is a podcast on food and nutrition security, I also wonder if you can talk a bit about why the issue of hunger is so important to the Clean Slate Initiative.
We have key values that we look at. If you ever have the chance to talk with someone who has benefited from a state level clean slate law from somewhere like Pennsylvania or Michigan, it's clear that they are just normal folks who just want to take care of themselves, their families, and those who count on them. Another thing that I've observed is that when people have more meaningful opportunities, they often experience more stability. Having one job that pays someone fairly is better than having to work at least two jobs just to make ends meet. And it leads to people having more time to spend with their families or pursue their passion, which helps them reach their full potential. And that's what we're looking for when it comes to Clean Slate. We want to make sure that we are assisting and providing those opportunities and getting folks to a place where they are reaching their full potential and not having to carry around the burden of having a record. So those kind of things are what people sacrifice when hunger is an issue for them and their families. Opportunity leads to less scarcity. So as CSI works to ensure people are not defined by a single record of a past mistake, like something I did in the past, people are more empowered to shape their own future, and that never involves being hungry. Our work directly at Clean Slate it connects to food security, mainly because by helping people secure jobs and stable housing, we reduce that reliance on emergency food assistance and enables families to build long-term economic stability. We also know that sealing a record can be the difference between getting a well-paying job and structure to make ends meet, which includes putting food on the table. I know for some families that I've talked to about this, they've seen a huge increase in their take-home dollars, so that when they are going out to the grocery store, if they're going out to eat, they take pride in being able to take care for themselves and also their family. So that's how we envision it, and how we feel the connection between our work and hunger is. I will also say that we crunched a couple of numbers. We have one of the most amazing data and research teams. And last fall, we released a survey that polled individuals with arrest or conviction records in states that have clean slate laws. And one thing that we learned was, among the people who have had a record automatically sealed, 42% reported improvements in employment and personal finances. 35% of respondents experienced improved family relationships, and 34% reported positive mental health and self-esteem changes. So think about that. Think about the impact that those kinds of improvements can have on people and families experiencing food insecurity. In more details, clean slate laws have a huge impact on people's lives, and those kind of impacts make it less likely that families will have to suffer from hunger. So we know that clean slate laws work, and we know that they can have a transformational impact on people and their families as a whole.
Thank you for that. Let's get back to, why it might be that someone who's leaving incarceration may be more likely to be food insecure. We do know from the data that this population is more likely to be food insecure. Could you tell us a little bit about the why and the impact that has on families and communities?
Absolutely. So, returning citizens face many challenges. Food insecurity is often one of them. We're not just talking about returning citizens. A lot of times, when we talk about reentry and criminal justice issue, we always believe that folks have been in prison. But ultimately, a lot of folks don't even see prison time. They barely see jail time. And a lot of times they may get arrested, and that arrest never comes with a conviction, or the charges are dropped. As I stated before, there are 70 to 100 million people, 1 in 3 adults, in the United States with an arrest or conviction record. Most records are for misdemeanors or other low-level crimes or offenses, and many of those arrest records where people were arrested but were not convicted or had charges dismissed. So the vast majority of the people we're talking about are individuals who experience food insecurity because that past record of going to prison, that stops them from gaining access to viable or livable wages in their jobs. And as I stated before, a lot of times before having your record cleared, you're working 2, 3, sometimes more jobs just to make ends meet. And we have seen statistically that individuals who do get their records cleared are able to gain access to one viable, fairly paid wage job. But we also need to talk about those individuals who are left in our communities, and that is the 1 in 3 of individuals. We're talking about our neighbors, we're talking about our friends, our family members, and even our loved ones. And as I shared my story before, we're talking about people like me. So I just want to make sure that we frame this in a way where it's everyone included and not just the individuals that we tend to think have that stigma that comes along with having a criminal record or being in jail. I would say one of the unintended consequences of how court records are maintained is that they are often used to extend punishments far beyond what a court or even lawmakers deem them to be. And having an arrest or conviction record should not be a life sentence to poverty or hardships like hunger. Most states recognize the impact of past records can have on people's opportunities to find meaningful work, safe housing, or even the ability to pursue an education. That's why people are eligible to have certain records sealed after a period of time if they meet those requirements. The problem is those processes are often expensive, and there's a long and tedious bureaucratic nightmare, often requiring the help of a lawyer. So right now, we estimate at Clean Slate Initiative that there are about 30 million people currently eligible to have their records completely sealed under their laws. This is without any assistance from us. These are laws that are currently in place. And we know the wealthy can afford to hire lawyers and go through the rigmarole, and they can easily move on. It's harder for working folks, which is why fewer than 10% of people who ever get the actual chance to that second chance and have their record cleared, they don't. So as a result, we noticed that 94% of employers use background checks, making it harder for individuals with records to get stable jobs. Even after securing employment, wages are often lower due to those limited job options. We also know that Many returning citizens face restrictions on accessing SNAP, food stamps, if you want to call it that, and other support programs due to their criminal records. Some states impose bans on food assistance for people with past drug-related convictions. And the other part is with housing. We know that 90% of landlords screen tenants for criminal records. Without stable housing, consistent access to food is even harder for us to maintain. Imagine trying to figure out where you're going to live. That is, you got to prioritize. Am I going to try to figure out where I'm going to lay my head, or am I trying to prioritize what I'm going to put in my belly? That's not something that an everyday individual should have to go through. And then the last piece here is on the families. We know that food insecurity affects more than just the individual. It impacts children, their partners, and extended family who may already be struggling themselves. We know that nearly half of all children, sorry, whenever that's a lot of stats, I'm throwing them at you. Nearly half of all children in the United States, about 33 million to 36.5 million, have at least one parent with a criminal record. I am part of that. My dad was in the prison system and currently still is in and out of it. The impacts of having a record does not necessarily disappear after one generation. They linger and they have ripple effects. And that results in disadvantages for their children's children and beyond that. So this is a generational thing. And for us to tackle criminal justice issues like providing second chances, sometimes third chances, will allow for that ripple effect in the opposite direction, where we will provide the opportunities and remove these barriers for individuals to gain access to strong housing, strong employment, strong access to food, to eliminate the food insecurity, and also just make sure that they have the ability just to take care of themselves and their communities.
Thank you. It's amazing to think about the wide-reaching impacts having folks return from incarceration, how that impacts the family, the community. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit more about the Clean Slate Initiative itself and what it does and its impact.
So for the Clean Slate Initiative, I stated before, we are a national nonprofit organization based in Orlando, Florida, and we work both at the state and federal levels to make sure that we are passing legislation to assist in the record clearance abilities. We have been successful again in 12 different states. We're currently active in a number of others, and we have a full 50-state plan where we are planning to make sure that we clear the records of individuals all across this nation. For us at the federal level, we are primarily focusing on two key pieces of legislation, and the reason it is because there is no federal mechanism right now to clear your record. Our first key bill that we focus on is the Clean Slate Act. This is our flagship style bill that we pass in every state that we go through. And this would automate sealing for federal nonviolent offenses, opening doors to better employment and housing. And then we call the little sister bill to Clean Slate, and that's the Fresh Start Act. And ultimately that provides funding for states to implement automated record sealing laws, helping more people clear their records without costly legal fees. And then the last piece about it is we are focusing around our advocacy for fair access to SNAP and public benefits. That's why the Clean State Initiative is a proud supporter of the Restore Act, one that we do believe will be of assistance not only just for the people that utilize those sort of benefits, but also it alleviates the federal system as well. Once you give them the ability to access that and get out of that system or out of that cycle, it provides more opportunities.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning the support of SNAP. When we think about folks returning to their communities, many of them really coming back to difficult situations, and we want to be able to set them up for success. So having access to SNAP seems like a no-brainer, but why is this a challenge?
Let's just be honest, it's challenging to get Congress to agree on things. There are 535 elected officials, 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate, from across the country with various priorities and things they want to accomplish. Partisan politics always influences what happens and what doesn't. And right now we are in an extremely divisive period. We are recording this conversation in early 2025. So it's, everyone knows what's going on right now. And during the first months of this second Trump administration, we are filled with uncertainty. Ultimately, the executive branch is shaking things up, and big decisions are being made more quickly than we've ever seen before. We're seeing a lot of intentional disruption of the federal government. And it's clear from my own observation, I'm not commenting on whether that's happening, what's happening is good or bad or somewhere in between. It's just hard to miss that there is a frenzy of things going on. And one common thread in a lot of what's happening is centered on how much money the government should spend and how to spend it. For me, this is an opportunity. There's a sense of hope, for me personally, though, when it comes to making sure taxpayers' money is spent effectively, efficiently, and programs are also being effective. It's clear that federal nutrition programs have a huge impact. Your listeners might not know this, but right now, many people who are eligible for SNAP either don't know they are eligible or don't have access to resources to apply. So the government isn't effective in reaching the people who need to know about these important programs. They can do better, and that takes leadership. I hope we see that kind of leadership, but who knows? And then this administration has another opportunity to demonstrate its strength by tackling a problem that no other administration has been able to solve. And that's fixing the crisis that has left 1 in 3 adults in America with a record that's a lifelong sentence to poverty and hardship. We know that the president is tough on crime, and we know that he has a vision to make criminal justice system fair for people who are not dangerous to others and within their communities and other people in general. So during his first administration, we knew that he signed the First Step Act into law, and that was the biggest criminal justice reform that we've seen in decades. I'm hopeful we see even stronger leadership in the next step, or the Second Step Act. That must include common sense changes such as cutting the red tape that prohibits anyone with a past mistake from being able to secure food and nutrition benefits for their families. And thankfully, there's already bipartisan support for efforts like the Restore Act. And President Trump has allies and Republicans like Congressman Don Bacon and Congressman John Rutherford in the House who are already engaged and committed in this sort of work. So I just want to make sure that we are not only, bringing the administration and Congress to task, but we are also raising the flag and saying, hey, we have to give some credit where credit is due and also highlight some of the opportunities that may be there.
This is Second Chance Month across the United States. What is it? What's Second Chance Month?
Absolutely. So Second Chance Month is, for me, it's a time where we celebrate the resilience of individuals and the many ways we ensure people have the opportunity to turn their second chance into a success story. I am a huge advocate for Second Chance Month because I celebrate, as I stated previously, about my opportunities that I've been given. This first came about during the Bush administration with the passage of the Second Chance Act, which provided grant programs towards reentry and other areas. And then it became an official recognized month in 2017 in April by President Trump. So Second Chance Month is just a great opportunity to highlight all the different things and all the different ways individuals have been given those sort of opportunity. When it comes to Second Chance Month, I like to approach it in two different ways. I like to speak up about it and I like to step up about it. Opportunities for folks to speak up about it is the first thing you can do is just talk about it with people like we're doing right now on this podcast. Make sure your friends and family know it's Second Chance Month and why it matters. That includes sharing content on your social media channels. And then also food and nutrition advocates should highlight how hunger is connected to criminal justice reform. Sharing personal stories of individuals facing food insecurity due to their records can be very powerful. For us at CSI, we also have a lot of resources on our social media channels and our website, which is cleanslateinitiative.org. As I said, I like to speak up, but you can also step up. And for me, this is, pushing different policy change. You can support the Clean Slate laws at the state and federal level to remove employment and housing barriers. You can advocate for lifting restrictions on SNAP and other food programs for individuals with past convictions, or you can collaborate across different movements. If you are part of a coalition somewhere out there, talk to your coalition about it. If you are not part of one, go find one. If there's not one out there that you can find, create one. Everyone likes community, and there is power when you are in numbers. So I would encourage that. But we also know that food security and criminal justice reform are interconnected. If you work at an organization dedicated to one of these causes, make intentional efforts to work together to push for systemic change.
Wonderful. You've mentioned the connections between criminal justice and food security. Let's talk a little bit about what would you recommend anti-hunger advocates do when they're talking about this specific population to elected representatives and policymakers?
Be honest. I'm a former Hill staffer. And one thing that I learned is the most impactful when you are advocating for something that you're passionate about is being authentic and being honest. because not only can those staffers see right through it, they're going to tell their member, which was going to leave a long lasting impression on them. But before you even get the opportunity to be honest and authentic about what you're passionate about and why you're speaking, you have to look for those opportunities. Reach out to your state and local elected officials. If you are in the capital of your home state, find time to reach out to your elected state representative or senator or assembly person and see if you can schedule some time for them. This is the perfect opportunity to go up there, give them a phone call. Minutes are no longer free after 9 o'clock, so you can call before then and get through to your elected official. If you have interest in coming to DC and publicly seeing face to face with your member of Congress, make a plan. Sit down, talk about when you want to go. Look at the congressional calendar, see when they're going to be there, and if they're not there when you can go, find out when they're back home. Because every member of Congress has a congressional office, and sometimes more than one. So find the one that's closest to you and find out when their office hours are, which is the time in which they open it up to the public, and go have those conversations. Make it known that you care about this issue and that you are a constituent who's impacted by this.
Thank you. And you mentioned a few opportunities in terms of federal legislation earlier. What should we be keeping our eyes on? And, what do you see coming down the pike?
So we have a lot of good news coming, especially in the month of April for Second Chance Month. We are gearing up for the reintroduction of the Clean Slate Act. We're also gearing up for the reintroduction of the Fresh Start Act. And we are also getting prepared for a very large congressional lobby day with a number of directly impacted leaders from all across the country. We're going to be doing that in September of this year. But we are looking forward to the opportunity to do what I like to call witnessing the good news of Clean Slate and spreading that good news, because it really is good news.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to that September gathering. So we're having this conversation at a time, which you've referenced, that we see proposals pulling back funding for food safety nets. How have you yourself been navigating this environment? What advice do you have for others?
One thing I heard earlier today, and it came from actually the president of the Alliance to End Hunger, Eric Mitchell. He said, "We're going to be positive." And the reason that is because, we can be fired up with our anger, but we can't let that be the only piece of ammunition or a piece of fuel to get us going for something that we care about. I don't get up in the morning because I'm angry. I get up in the morning because I have joy in my heart that I get to go do some things that I really love and I care about. And I get to see people that I love and I care about. And in doing those things that I love and care about, I know that it is going to transcend well beyond me and that day, or even the anger that I may have on something else. So I will just encourage folks to be as positive as possible around what's going on, and don't do the whole doomsday scrolling. Honestly, that can really put you in a dark space. Just know that not only are you doing the work, there are others out there who are doing the work on your behalf, and they're doing it, like I said, with joy in their heart.
Thank you. This is such an important conversation for us to be having, and I'm really thankful that we're doing that today. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we sign off?
Yeah, just for everyone who's listening out there, support Clean Slate policies by reaching out to your policymakers. We talked about how to do that. Also, volunteer at food banks and reentry programs that support returning citizens. And then share stories. Changing public perception is key to building momentum for change. So share your truth so it could be other people's as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Reginald. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. And do you want to share the URL for your organization or any other resources that we can share with our audience?
Absolutely. We can be found on the internet at www.cleanslateinitiative.org.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Reginald Darby of the Clean Slate Initiative. This has been another episode of Voices to End Hunger. My name is Minerva Delgado, and thank you for joining us. See you next month.